Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the final class for the semester, or at least for this session, right? Everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Okay. All right, so this is for you. So we're here as a study hall essentially, effectively. So questions, what questions do we have? Thank you, Simi. That's nice. That was a nice comment. Yes. So Trevor's asking the question, what kind of questions might we see using Lex and Yak? And as stated in the study guide, what I'm looking for you to be able to do with Lex and Yak is, of course, be able to describe what these tools are, how do they work in the whole environment of compilation. And I also would expect you to be able to modify a Lex input file. So if I gave you, for example, an input file for Lex, and I asked you to make modifications to it, to do something different, that you'd be able to complete that. So Austin asked the question, it, right, it's not on this particular exam, but I know everybody's working on getting their summer and fall semesters lined up. And the question is about what I am teaching next in the fall semester. I will be teaching this class again, CS 530. We were looking to offer CS 532. And the reason why you didn't see me show up on anything yet was because we were trying to figure out whether we'd be offering 532 or not. Looks like at this point, we're less likely to do that, but they needed me to teach CS 530 again. So I'll be doing that in the fall. So Ming's asking the question about points for these last two work products that you are turning in. And you are correct. The assignment number 3 is 26 points. Exam number 3 is 50 points, 50. And Ethan is asking a question about these percentages. And as you saw in the syllabus, we have, clearly outlined the breakpoints for A's, A minuses, B pluses, B's, and such like that. And so in this particular case, you're asking about 89.9, not just the 89. So I do numerically correct rounding from the tenths to the whole number. So I'm assuming at this point that everybody has access to a machine on a network, be it a laptop or a workstation, that you can use to take your exams, and the networks are working fine and you don't have any issues being able to complete exam number 3, correct? Or if not, do contact me. If you have issues, do contact me. But I did hear from one student, and think that might work out. So if you have issues, we can talk through options, but I think everybody should have that by now. I think everybody's good. But if you have an issue, do contact me. So Jamie's asking one more time about the structure of the exam and the types of questions that we will have. And it will be similar to, okay, before I ask you your question, Jamie, I'm gonna go ahead and answer Marina's because that's a quick one. Will we be able to use any browser on the exam? And the answer is yes, although if you look at the recommendations there's a bunch of material that's been posted to the students there about recommendations of browsers for work that work and compatible with the Blackboard exam application. So I would just adhere to that, and most of them work. I mean, Internet Explorer works, Firefox works, Chrome works. I believe, I haven't tried it with Safari, but I believe that works. Beyond that, I'm not sure. And we are not using the lockdown browser. You're just going to use your regular browser. So now let's go back to Jamie's question. And it's going to be 7 or 8 questions. And most of the questions, most of the questions, all but one of the questions is going to be a combination of short answers or providing some written responses. Written responses could be actually the short, let's go back to the short answer questions first. So those are typically things like I might ask you to make some corrections to some of the grammars that are provided or some changes to some of the grammars provided. I might ask you to talk about, describe top-down parsers, bottom-up parsers, and have you be able to provide all the technical details to be able to describe it fully and correctly. I might be able to ask you, again, all of these different study topics you see here. So I might ask you to generate quads or modify quads, and you'd be able to provide those responses. So any of these topics here, I might ask you to do a correction or an addition, or I might ask you to write something that can be parsed or be able to show me the results of parsing something. The one question is that there's one question that might require you to upload the response to. So you do need to be prepared to either take a picture or scan something that you wrote, or if you're good with the drawing tools, you can use your drawing tools and then save that to a file and upload that. but there is likely to be one question where you'll need to upload the response. And that's just because it's so awkward to try and do that through just a text window, that on this one question that I have in mind, if I do ask that, that you should be prepared to either handwrite it or use a drawing program to answer the question, and then upload the file into that question. Okay, so Dante is asking a question. Exam 3 is 50 points. You're saying the weight of it is 100 points? No, it's going to be 50 points. I see what you're saying, because on the syllabus, I was thinking about changing the point structures for these questions, but I left assignments 1 and 3 at 26, exams 1 and 2 at 50, so I'm leaving exam 3 at 50. The only change was that I increased the assignment number 2 from 50 to 100 points, and then added the mini exam 3. That's the only difference. Well, thank you, Austin. It makes my day when I hear those comments from you both, because I'm not really sure, especially since we're not in the classroom, be able to get the more direct responses. So I'm glad to hear that we're able to convey this material such that you can understand it and work with it. That I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. Now I'm hoping we can get you through exam 3. That's my goal here. We're not giving up until we're there. Wow. So a little bit more about me. One of the things I do is I have a day job at the Navy's Research Laboratory, Research Development T&E Laboratory out at the Indian Point Loma, NIWC Pacific. We've had other names in the past, SPAWAR, Pacific, NOSC, NRAD, a whole bunch of different names we've gone through over the years. Currently now we're NIWC Pacific, but what we do is we do research and development and test and evaluation of technologies that we then migrate out into the fleet, and we transition into systems that other parts of the Navy can build and put on the ships. And so I've done a variety of research over the years out at the lab, including working with some early what's now collaboration tools, where we were working with virtual spaces and being able to use avatars before avatars were a common thing, to be able to enable people to relate to each other in these shared spaces, and then start using some very basic, start developing some very basic collaboration tools, including some chat systems that can work in highly latent environments that disconnect and reconnect frequently and semi-frequently, and being able to work in environments like that, austere environments like that. So I've had a lot of experience working with collaboration tools. So a lot of this comes somewhat naturally to me, even though I haven't tried to teach in one of those forums yet. At least I was prepared from a tools perspective about what their capabilities were. So I think that kind of gave me an advantage here, although I see the others are catching up pretty quickly. And I'm looking to take this the next step too. I think I can do even better in the next semesters. So I'm looking forward to your feedback, your comments, your recommendations and suggestions. If you have any, I always welcome taking those on. So yeah, if you have some ideas, throw them my way, please. Likewise, if you've heard of us at the career fairs or seen us on the bulletin board, for Nywick Pacific, we have a couple times a year, we hire students that are graduating and to what we call our NP or new professional program, which allows them an opportunity to try a couple of different projects in a couple of different areas out and see if it's a fit for them. And it's kind of a fun deal. We've been doing this for several decades, like five decades now, I guess, that we've been doing this program, and we've been expanding it over the years. It's really a neat opportunity. So how are you feeling? Are you feeling anxious about this? You feeling comfortable about this? This being the exam, of course. What, you're not enjoying the heat wave? I don't know many people who are. It was so cold for so long. It was nice to get a little bit of warmth, but we didn't have to go overboard, did we? I don't know. Hi, Dante. Yes, I know this is crunch time for students. I totally understand, and I'm glad that the timeline for taking this exam is helpful to all of you. That's one of the things that at least I can do. The least I feel I can do for you. So let me ask you another question, if I may. One of the things I am strongly considering is that once we go back into a face-to-face environment where we're doing in-classroom meetings again and teaching and lecturing and all those good things like we used to. Of course, it might not ever be exactly just like it used to, but you get the idea. We go back to that kind of modality here. I am still considering, should say, I'm considering still using the online test tools instead of doing the in-class uh, exams. And what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, that's a good point, Ethan. I'm assuming that when I'm asking the question that it would be used somewhat like I've been doing maybe even as I get to know the tools better, and whether or not we move over to another learning management system, what it's like. This could be very similar, yes. With the comments coming in, please keep them coming in. Christian, I see your question. You're asking yet about next semester, what the structure of that is going to be, whether it'll be in person or online. We are in the midst of those discussions right now in the department and across the university and in the college, all three areas. And the way it looks like, because there isn't a final decision yet, that decision will actually be reached very soon, like they were expecting it this week. And hopefully that would then get announced. But it looks like the focus is going to be in a mixed model. There are some classes where you need to come in order to be able to do the learning, and particularly things like, the physics class, and you've got the physics lab, chemistry class with the chemistry labs, and so in the biology classes with the biology labs, and so on. Those have some requirements for you to actually physically be in the spaces to be able to use the instruments and tools and be able to do direct work that way. So those kinds of classes, and there's some others as well, will require you to be in and do those. And they're looking to open up the spaces so that they can at least do that. And then there's some classes that are saying, yeah, we can do them using these collaboration tools like this, but they still require some meetings. Like maybe there's a couple of meetings up front and maybe a couple towards the end or something. We haven't figured that out yet. And then do some mixture of in lecture rooms and online like this. And there's some discussions even about maybe doing a 50-50. There's lots of different models that are being proposed right now and evaluated. So one thing we don't know is what the answer will be. That's what they're working on trying to answer this week. We do know several options. We do know that we're not going all back into the classrooms. That's not allowed. So it's going to be some mixed model. Some great responses coming in. I really appreciate that. Keep them coming. I am going to comment on Dante's uh, stating that working under pressure can be a good skill to have. It absolutely is. There's no doubt about it. In the so-called real world, there's times when we've got to deliver something, or we're showing up for a test event, or we've got to have something that we can then integrate, and the stuff has to be done, and you might not have planned well, or you might have encountered some issues that you hadn't forecasted for. And so you end up taking more time to get the work done, and you might be at the last minute still scrambling, maybe not necessarily developing, but doing some patch fixing, some error correction, you're doing some testing. So you're bouncing back and forth between testing and doing some corrections and doing retests down to the wire. And those get pretty hairy. I can attest to that. We've been in a number of situations. One memorable ones, I had most of my team were out on the boat doing some testing, and we were doing some code updates from the lab late into the night, and we were sending the updates periodically out to the boat. through a satellite connection, which is really, really tiny and slow. And trying to factor that in with what we could do before they actually started deploying the stuff in the water that we needed to test with. And those got a bit stressful, yes. So if somebody sees Kyle's open question there and can answer that, we'd all appreciate it. I do not know the answer to that myself. So generally, they're mostly positive responses I'm seeing here, and that you're seeing here, because you're seeing all these as well. Um, Seems like the most most of you prefer the online, although some of you have some good points for the in-class testing. And Dante asked the question about whether I prefer doing it online or offline. This is really about what works best for the students. And that really is my focus. And so that's when I said, hey, I got this tool. How can we use it? And how can we write questions best so that you're focused less on how you're going to answer in the tool and more focused on, hey, I can write the answer out and just put it into the tool and be done with it. And that should not be a time task thing that you have to factor in, although I am giving you more time because that is a reality that it does take more time for a number of people to upload the questions or the responses rather. So I'm trying to eliminate that from the equation as well as better understand how I can format the questions in the capabilities they give us with the test taking. And I'm also learning Canvas as well because the state university has not decided yet on whether to go with Canvas or Blackboard in the future. They're supposed to decide that this week as well and then start getting people forward there. But I've already started learning Canvas and becoming more familiar with it. So whichever way we go, I want to be prepared to make it better for you, the students. Simon, yeah, I can relate to that. Oh my gosh, yes, the mobile version of Canvas, the mobile version of Blackboard, those are night and day. Oh my gosh. Dante, so yes, it's going to be 7 to 8 questions, but the second part's not necessarily correct. It could be short answers, or it could be corrections, or it could be write this out. So the one comment I saw here is a issue with the way I've set up these exams, and that is regarding proctors during the exam itself. So by opening up the window like I did, that doesn't ensure that you necessarily have somebody online at the moment that you are actually taking the exam. So I've got my I've got my tablet and I've got my phone with me, and I do get alerts. So if there's an issue, you can contact me, and I'm getting alerts, and I can quickly get back to you in many cases, but not all cases, because I'm not going to be sitting at my computer 24/7 while the exam is open. So if you think if you think you will have a case where you'll be needing rapid answers, then you might want to plan on taking the exam during regular daylight hours, and that way you're more likely to have quick responses. But I'm pretty sure the way I've written this exam, you shouldn't, it's very, very clear, it's very specific, and you really shouldn't have any confusion over the way the wording is and what we're looking for an answer. And Trevor, yes, I did take that into account. There are no multi-part questions here. Each question stands alone. So no dependencies on other questions. They're all independent topics. And Dante, yes, we did discuss that. It's most of the questions are going to be either short answers or they're going to be more lengthy. I want you to write out the full response. One of them, if I ask about parsing, there might be a parsing question where you might prefer to write it out on a piece of paper and then scan it or take a picture of it, or you might use a drawing tool to answer it and then you save it as a file and then you upload that into that answer instead. Okay, see Jamie's question about CS560 and whether we're going to open more sections. No, but I don't, I think that I know that they're reluctant to open more sections right now. Don't, I don't think they will, but they are watching it very carefully. Thank you, Austin. I was thinking as well, it looks like the questions are tapering off here and I got the responses. Thank you for the questions I asked of you. I do appreciate that. And I do wish everybody well on this exam and on your other classes as well. I know it's a stressful time. I know it's been a very unusual semester here, probably the most unusual ever. And appreciate your resilience, your flexibility to adapting to the situation and patience with us to get the content out to you and still respond to your needs and help us all get across this finish line. I thank you, wish you all well, and we will see you virtually over the long weekend here. Good luck.